Welcome to 10 Minutes, everybody. So, today is the 8 year anniversary of a loss of a great friend, mentor, boss, leader um, that had taught me and so many other people so much. And I'm going to share that story today. It's a little tough. Um, I usually try to get out with some of the old coworkers and stuff, but today I'm going to hit dinner with my brother to just kind of celebrate his life, have a drink for him, and think about him, talk about him, tell some stories. But Steve was an awesome person. He had strived to be many things in life, and we don't actually ever know the answers on why somebody commits suicide, or what led up to that day or that minute. For me, I'm going to talk about what I experienced through that and kind of how it changed my life and how I do things. So, one of the biggest things was I didn't understand why I couldn't have stopped it. I looked through my phone for 2 weeks straight, trying to figure out how I could have done a better job, being there for him. I was talking to him on a daily basis during this time when this happened. And at the end of the day, 2 weeks, almost to the exact day of his passing, I ended up just clearing out his text messages so that I wouldn't go through them anymore. I crumbled down on my wife's lap that night. It was a huge impact to me. This was a person who was a friend, spent time at work, outside of work. We really grew to know each other. And, at the end of the day, this kind of stuff, whether we notice it, whether we admit to it, has a huge impact on our lives. So for me, I started treating people totally different after this. I would say, the way I handle myself in business and the fact that I try not to smush people down or make people feel pressure or that, if we don't hit this deadline or do this thing, the world's ending. You never know when someone's world is just a few millimeters away from being over. So I try not to make the little things into such big things or put pressure on things that aren't life or death, because enough of those things add up. They become death for too many people every year. And so I try really hard to be a smile or a happy thought or someone for someone to hold on to. And for a little while, I kind of lost myself on that. I spent about a year and a half, 2 years really looking for people who in that same position that my friend was in, to try to see if I could save them and help them and get them out of their space. I learned a lot over those years. I learned about some people who were going through some struggles. I learned a lot about myself. But one of the things is you can be there for people, but you can't necessarily fix what they have going on, what their situation is. But I think at least being present, being able to pick the phone up, being able to be an ear to talk to. This is where active listening versus solving people's problems comes into play. Sometimes people just need to be heard and feel like they have somewhere as an outlet. And but a younger me, or before maybe this incident, I always wanted to solve people's problems as fast as possible, and just act like they're no big deal. But the problem is for someone who commits suicide, or someone who has suicidal thoughts, or someone who's in massive depression, you don't just stop thinking those things. Those things are things that you personally have to chew through and figure out, and nobody can come in and make your problem that you're making a mountain into a molehill. You have to make it into that molehill. You have to make that problem smaller. And realizing that throughout the years, and I would say a lot of that growth came over the last 8 years after going through losing him. You realize that you can't solve everybody's problems, and they're as big as those people make them. You can just be there to support and help. And ultimately, that's another reason why I text people back. I pick up phone calls. I do everything I can to be available, because for me, I take every phone call, and it's crazy, and it doesn't like eat me alive or anything, but I take every phone call like it's a phone call that needed to be answered for somebody. And that comes from feeling like I might have missed the opportunity to take that phone call for Steve. I might have missed that opportunity to take that text message or pay attention to those words or figure out where I was supposed to somehow come in and create at least a little bit of relief and change that. Another thing that comes to mind, but we don't have facts, is you put pressure and pressure and pressure on leaders to do the right thing, to get the things done. You might put a leader against another leader. You might create a really bad dynamic because of what you think's right. So you just continue to chirp and chirp and chirp at people in leadership roles. Well, sometimes those people are going through their own problems. Sometimes those people don't have the bandwidth to actually solve your problem and be your hero, or go at that task at that hard level that you want them to. And we were kind of in a crappy environment at work, and I think that plays into everything. If you have a tough work environment just alone, that can cause you to lose it. If you have a tough work environment and a tough home environment, that's just sometimes unbearable. And then you can have vice versa. You could have a good work environment and a tough home life. Well, for me, in the corporate world, if we can provide a good place for people to work and feel like they have something and they have camaraderie and they have something to live for, maybe we're helping at least change the numbers on how many suicides or how many people take their own lives or stay in depression, and they don't actually get to that moment where they commit suicide, but they live every day like they want to be dead. That's absolutely horrible also. The struggle with Steve is you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell that was happening. Again, nobody knows the facts when this stuff happens. But at the end of the day, we lost a good man. We lost a father, a husband, a mentor, a leader. And I wish he was still here today. But that's my story about that. This is a tough one. It might be a rambler or whatever. This is a tough topic. But I wanted to share it. Have a good day.